Good morning and welcome to Barcelona. This is it. This is the finale, the grand finale to 2018. We have 14 titles to play for. 2 have been settled, 12 still to be sorted here this weekend. And get this, for the Endurance Championship, we have 15 crews still in with a chance of landing that title. 15 crews. I just thought I'd run that number past you one more time. John Watson and me, Bruce Jones, at Barcelona. The car's already going out onto the circuit. It's becoming a hot day, quite a smelly day, quite a malodorous day here at the circuit, but that will dissipate as the temperature rises, and it's just going to be hard to know where to look, John. So many titles to be sorted.
Well, not so many titles there. We can see the championship situations, and it is exceptionally close all the way down to, well, overall third place.
Well, it goes right the way down to Maxi Buch and Maxi Götz on 24 points, so half the points of Raffaele Marciello, but they can, with 26 points to play for, still pip him. But the man at the top of the table, Raffaele Marciello, could achieve here this weekend something that's never been done before. He's already got Blancpain Sprint title that he won at the Nürburgring with Michael Meadows in his pocket. He could take the Blancpain Endurance Cup as well, and on top of that, he could combine the two and become the overall Blancpain GT champion for 2018. A phenomenal performance for a driver who really hit the ground running when he joined GT racing at the start of only last year. But there he is on the top of the overall table. So they're sitting well, but we had Alex Riberas, Christian Mies. They're always in with a shout, and they're right here this weekend. And maybe for Belgian Audi Club, they can deliver.
And as is always the case, in any round of Blancpain Endurance, being at the front of the field is going to be key, because, as we know at Barcelona, there's going to be a number of elements that will contribute to the outcome of these 2 remaining championships. One will be the nature, the layout of this Barcelona Grand Prix circuit. Overtaking, not easy. Therefore, grid position, absolutely vital. But the other factor is we've got real Indian summer weather here in Barcelona. High 20s, maybe even kissing into the low 30 Celsius. We know that has a significant outcome on tyre performance, tyre degradation, tyre wear generally. So which car is going to be the kindest on its tyres in the hottest of those conditions? Well, where do you want to start, Bruce? I would have to say...
I don't want to start by being in the gravel, but is that Matt Parry? Just saw his name up on the screen. He's taken the wide line, waved yellow flags off and avoided the barriers on the outside of turn 9, Camps Revolt, and he's found one of the other circuit variations to use to come back on.
That was the original turn 9 that he actually found himself on. Now, whether that was a tyre issue, I wonder if that left front deflated or deflating, or whether that was just simply Matt Parry being on it a little bit too rapidly. The tyre would appear to look all right from that image, but it is going to be about grid position and controlling the tyre and tyre temperatures in what will be, we believe, a very, very hot Sunday afternoon here in Barcelona.
Well, let's just throw some numbers at you. 52 cars coming out to play on this 16-turn circuit. Thus far, we've had the 4 rounds of the Endurance Cup. Oh dear, and we've
Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin, Ferrari again. Now, is there something on the circuit? Again, look, that's turn 16. That's literally just below us, coming on to start-finish straight.
Yeah, it's about 100 metres away from us.
So what, the Ferrari gets a bit wide onto the dirty middle of the track, you can see. And all of a sudden it is heading tyre barrier wise. Not a lot of space on the exit of 16, and that will be of a huge disappointment. We won't have a look and see who was behind the wheel.
Well, yes, we'll just check that one out for you. But again, turn 16 really can bite. You get diminishing returns as you get towards the exit, and he just needed, there'll be obviously a red flag. You can see the red flag denoted at the top of the screen. So majority of drivers have made it into the pit lane. One of the cars has just gone past. So for other teams, it's just a chance to think very early on. But that was a moment we weren't expecting. But again, 52 cars coming out to play, everybody trying to eke an advantage as soon as they possibly could. We've got another car pulled off just by pit exit.
Dear me, I mean, it is all kicking off in the opening seconds, almost the opening seconds of this 1.5 hour practice session.
They were on their first Pucker quick lap. Well, so car 51 in the wall, and that was Duncan Cameron, the AF Course Spirit of Race
Bruce, that
Ferrari.
was the car that in the bronze test yesterday was fastest overall, driven by Bontempi. Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin are the regular drivers, but Just I beg your pardon, Lorenzo Bontempi is the third driver in that car. Normally, we're looking to see. That's a Bentley, isn't it?
Bentley being recovered, and the pit entrance not quite under the control tower. The 62 Aston Martin has come to a stop. Dominic Baumann, the R Motorsport car. So all the cars coming in have to be waved past it.
I think the Bentley is actually pulled off literally at the point of leaving the pit lane.
Two new Bentleys this weekend. The cars used in previous rounds have been shipped to the States and to Asia, just showing the spread of the Bentley empire. So brand new machines this weekend. There's a wonderful video on the Blancpain GT site of Andy Soucek talking everyone around the new car. Very impressive, as always, very impressive for his home race, but just the investment. He was talking about they bring 40 people to each of these races, not just to eat lunch.
There's a lot of smoke coming from those two exhausts.
Okay, so it's not Soucek's car, it's a sister car. It should be Jordan Pepper, the South African driver, who was brought into the team after Guy Smith announced his retirement back at the Silverstone round. And so, for a lot of these drivers, it's a case of just bring the cars back round into the pit lane. So just as they were starting to get up to speed, a little bit of frustration, but obviously we have to have the Ferrari cleared up. That's still sitting in the gravel,
yeah, well,
been moved.
It's not just sitting in the gravel. There you can see a load of gravel being deposited on the circuit. There's the 62 Aston Martin. So it's made itself back into the pit lane at the earliest phase. So most unusual circumstances when the session just gets underway and all of a sudden we've got a car on the tyre barrier, we've got a car that's left the pit lane, literally stopping. We've got a third car which has made it back into the pit lane on board with Dries van Thor, who currently is quickest overall, 144.9. compared to what we saw yesterday in the bronze test of a 146.7. So the best part of 1.8 seconds quicker already. Now, we know historically this circuit at this time of morning will be very quick. As the day progresses, the track then takes on a different character and personality, and that has a bearing on lap times. Then as the evening, into the sort of the cooler evening hours, then the track performance tends to come back. But the Bentley now being dragged away, watch and see. Look, Matt, I mean, never even looked at him. I was going to say pup's chance and you know where of getting around that corner. Strange. It's not an obvious error for a driver to make. Now, whether Matt Parry thought he was somewhere else. You know, the other thing is the sun is all over the place. Did he get blinded coming up out of turn 8 into turn 9?
Shouldn't have done it. Should have been coming across him at that point. So anyhow, he's got away with that. The 62 Aston Martin has been at least given a shove down the pit lane.
Bruce, it's up on the dollies.
It's on the dollies, it's entirely. And I'm just turning to my right, and there's now a tow vehicle trying to fix itself to Duncan Cameron's Ferrari. It doesn't look as though it's picked up too much damage that one can see. I think it was a fairly light tap with the tyre wall on the back of the gravel trap on the exit of the final corner. 52 cars went out to play. We've got 4 of them coming back in, the 3 of them coming back with slight problems. We hope those can be sorted out. But just look as this Aston Martin is being pushed down the pit lane, car after car after car, in that echelon formation in front of their garages. But for the teams, they want those cars out on the track.
Well, the clock's still ticking down. It doesn't stop in a free practice session.
Yeah,
or as a pre-qualifying session, to give it its correct title. Yeah,
90 minutes in which to really get a handle of this circuit. As you can see, light and shade. We've got the shade of the main grandstand cast over the pits. The gravel at the, well, that's coming out of turn 16.
I think it was liberally deposited, to put it mildly. And, 3 men and their brooms. One makes me think of Jerome. What do you call it? Jerome.
3 men in a boat, Jerome K. Jerome.
Jerome. I knew there was one Jerome, and 3 men in a boat. Well, this is 3 men and 3 brushes trying to clear a sea of gravel off the racetrack.
Yeah, that was spat up as the wheels of the Ferrari just went over the edge of the circuit and the painted concrete strip beyond. So for the drivers like Alvaro Parent, it's just what they don't want. They want to get out and get some good practice time in here, and almost every lap is going to be compromised with so many cars coming out to play. This is really where professional drivers earn their keep, John, I would say. They have to be out there with focus and deliver.
Jake Dennis, the 3rd driver in the 76 Aston Martin, Mathieu Davier, who is, a name that's fairly new to Blancpain, not new to GT racing. Stellar qualifying, for example, at Silverstone. But 3rd driver Jake Dennis, I picked up something at the weekend. He was involved in a acceleration test between a motorcycle, a Formula 1 car, a Tesla, would you believe, and another GT car. And actually, the motorcycle just pipped the Formula One, the Red Bull, over whatever the distance was. It may have been half a mile or something.
Well, I tell you, actually, when I went out to the Blancpain GT Asia events in Thailand, they like to have at lunchtime a local chap on an absolutely crazy motorbike trying to take on the racing cars right in front of the grandstand. It's good fun, and all the fans get really into it.
In terms of straight line performance, the motorbike will eat anything.
It's acceleration off.
It's phenomenal. It actually is scary. But of course, then they're hampered by having only 2 wheels and a very small contact patch in comparison to let's say, a Formula One car. But even a GT car around here, the difference in performance between a MotoGP motorcycle and a GT3 Blancpain, anything probably isn't massive.
No, I think you've...
But in a straight line, the motorbike will be doing 210 miles an hour down the main straight, and the GT3 will be doing about 160. But it's under braking and cornering, the lateral grip that these GT3 cars are now generating. I mean, they're producing prodigious levels of lateral grip for what is effectively a production road-going GT car.
We were just looking at Kelvin van der Linde, very much in the hunt. He's 5th in the endurance table for the pro category drivers, the top drivers. So let's just reiterate, Raffaele Marciello leads that table on 48 points. I'll just do a couple more, John. Then only 1 point behind, Jelmer Berman, Mauro Engel, Lucas Stoltz 47. Blomqvist, Eng and Cronjes on 43, because of course they got the extra points for winning at the Spa 24 Hours. What a performance that was.
Just noticing on timing and scoring, car 62 is Blokking.
Bloking it up, not blocking.
No,
that's
I
what
wonder
do.
Maybe that was just a sort of an abbreviation of blocking. So
here we have those points on the screen. 48, 47, 47. That's so close. It's a blink of an eye. 1 point for pole, so they could be going equal into this race if the Black Falcon Mercedes crew could land it.
Think back 2 weekends ago, the number was the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes, which Hubert Haupt and Lucas Stoltz were driving
in the sprint event at the Nürburgring.
Absolutely, the sprint event. They outpaced eventually.
Yeah, they've really, the Black Falcon crew has really come on strong. But Lucas Stoltz in particular. But look, we can go all the way down to 15th place overall. Sorry, the graphics just gone on. Buch and Gotts in with a chance from the outside. They've got to have everything go right for them and everything go wrong for everyone else. But the fact of the matter, we've been to 4 circuits. We've had 4 different manufacturers winning rounds of the Endurance Cup. When you combine it all, Raffaele Marciello, already champion in the Sprint Cup, heading the table in the Endurance Cup, therefore, not surprisingly, heading the overall combined table, be a phenomenal achievement. But just look at the quality of cars up and down the pit lane, the quality of teams, the quality of drivers, and the chance of him coming out on top, if he does it, it's going to be absolutely extraordinary achievement.
The thing that would please me, if that was to be the outcome after the event on Sunday, is that Raffaele Marciello is 100% race driver. The guy he only knows one thing in terms of what he does behind the racing car, behind the wheel. He is totally committed, and we've seen on occasion he's been overcommitted and made errors, but he is a pure racer, and you put him to anything, he'll be a pure racer. And I think that's just one of the elements of what has come forward this season, is people like Raffaele Marciello coming to the fore and illustrating what is possible. And I mean, certainly the way he drives the number 88 Mercedes, the ASP Mercedes, that he normally shares in sprint with Michael Meadows. But here this weekend, he's got Tristan Vautier and Danny Juncadella. I mean, pretty stellar lineup, and I mean that's probably the best they could do to support Raffaele Marciello achieve his goals.
Yeah, I mean, really strong drivers to be brought back in. Seb Morris been in and out of the championship this year. Obviously, he came in under Andy Merrick. Andy Merrick runs him, and having raced very well and been British GT champion before, he comes with a very good pedigree. And certainly, Team Parker very fond of their Bentley. Still sweeping up on the exit of turn 16, and still they've got the tractor in place to pull the AF Corsa Ferrari. It should just be on the left of your shot. Just there's the yellow tractor that's about to pull it out, but it's not going anywhere fast at the moment.
The only thing is that when the Ferrari, the 51 Ferrari, is retrieved, will it then
put more gravel back on the
further add gravel to the racetrack that the corner workers here are brushing furiously to clear? I mean, there's a lot of gravel. You look at it from the on-screen shot, you think, oh, that doesn't look too bad, but actually when you go down there, there's a shed load of gravel on the track.
Certainly is. Just looking at one of the Ombra Racing Lamborghinis this weekend, but let's just go through. We haven't had a Lamborghini victory in any of the endurance rounds. It was Audi in the opening round at Monza, Aston Martin famously at Silverstone, Lexus at Paul Ricard. Huge applause for that one, because it's great to see a new manufacturer breaking in, and BMW at Spa. So who is going to join that list this time around? Plenty of options.
It's a real stick the tail on the donkey, because there's such wherever you look, the professional teams within this 3-hour event, they've all brought their best drivers. I mean, if you think back to the last round, the Spa 24, won by the Valkenhaus BMW team, Philippe Eng and others, Tom Blomqvist, they've all been brought forward, put into the row racing BMWs, because they see there's an opportunity. They're one of those operations that could mathematically walk away with one of the 2 titles available on Sunday.
But going down that list of manufacturers, there is yet to be a Mercedes win in endurance round this year. Yet there is Mercedes driver Raffaele Marciello at the top of the table. No Bentley wins this year as yet. Brand new cars this weekend. The number 8 being driven by Vincent Abril, Andy Soucek and Maxime Soulet. And the sister car, Jordan Pepper's car, was the one that had the problem that pulled off just at the exit of the pit lane.
I mean, we were privileged. We had a look at it. It's on the Blancpain, on the YouTube website. This car, looking at it, looks like your regular sort of Series 2 Bentley GT3 Continental. But under the skin, I mean, it is a highly sophisticated racing machine. And Andy walked us around the car and proudly pointed out one of the key elements of the design of this car is that the engine, it is so low and so far back in the chassis that you can't see it. I mean, you've got to stand right over almost at the driver's door and look down. That's where the engine is.
And then he walked further back and said, what happens because of that? The driver is even further back. He said most of the rivals have obviously rear engines, and we want that weight balance as perfect as we can get it.
Yeah, so they've got approximately 50-50 front rear weight balance. I mean, it is a very, very much more evolved Bentley than the initial Bentley GT3 Continental that raced over the previous 3 seasons. And I mean, it is inevitable that everybody will look at what Bentley are doing and see what they can do to bring out Evo versions of particularly the front mid-engine cars, such as the BMW, which again has got its engine buried really under the firewall. They've now got the Lexus coming along. They've still got the Mercedes GT3 or AMG GT3, an extremely efficient race machine. But how much more development will there be available to make sure that their performances continue to further improve?
Well, don't forget we've also got the Emil Frey G3 Jaguar that's been with us for a very long time, and that still very much adopts that format. Message, just you might have spotted it on screen, we should be restarting at 9:26, which is in, well, let's see, about 6.5 minutes time, 7.5 minutes time. Still haven't removed the 51 Ferrari, the AF Corsa Ferrari. I don't know what the tractor's doing, it's sitting behind it, but nobody else is really doing anything, so we will have to wait and see. Now, the only one, well, 2 of the 14 championships have been settled. This car is the one that's actually claimed them. In the Blancpain, not Blancpain Endurance, the overall Blancpain GT title has gone to Niels in Pro-Am for drivers, has gone to Niels Stevenart and Marcus Finkelhoff. There is their car, and their team, Santalot Racing, has also locked at the Pro-Am overall title, but only by the smallest of margins. They are literally, they need to have a 27-point advantage, and they have a 27-point advantage. So there we are. They just squeaked clean, but a really good season. But of course, for Niels Stevenart, young French driver learning his craft, who better to have alongside than Marcus Finkelhoff, sort of the ultimate teacher?
Well, Marcus has been involved in GT racing and motor racing for almost, I can't remember now how long, but he just brings that ability in terms of his out-and-out performance and speed, but experience to help guide younger talent that are coming along, and it's a wise head on Marcus Finkelhoff's shoulders, and it is such a valuable commodity to have, and you're running in a Pro-Am team to allow the AM to develop and expand, but you've got the solid, the performances that Marcus Finkelhoff knocks in weekend after weekend.
Now, that victory at the Spa 24 Hours for Valkenhaus Motorsport had Tom Blomqvist and Philippe Eng on board. This weekend, they're right in the championship, and to double their chances, or not to have them both taken out at the same time, their entries have been split. They're with Rover Racing again, this weekend. Tom will be sharing with Jens Klingman and Alexander Sims. That's in the 98 car. The 99 sister car is the one that Philippe Eng will drive with Jesse Krohn and sorry, lost my line. Sorry, Nicky Katzberg's in with Tom Blomqvist. Alexander Sims is with Philippe Eng, but they've split them, double their chances, and certainly looking very well placed in the championship. They are in 3rd position overall.
They did mention prior to this event that they are uncertain as to whether Barcelona, the racetrack here, plays to the strengths. We saw in Spa 24 that the BMW just was the class of the field throughout the 24-hour event. They're not quite so certain whether the nature here of Barcelona, the 16 turns and the problems that it throws up.
Okay, is it the sort of, you're a man who's very fond of Porsches, is it the sort of weekend that this car, the 911, could come through? Manthey Racing, Romain Dumas, Dirk Werner, Frederic Machiavicchi, stellar lineup. Romain on board, Fred standing alongside. No wins as yet for Porsche this year. Can they join the mix?
I think it comes back to where do you qualify? I mean, can you get the performance from the car when it counts, and the qualification will be absolutely key. So if you've got the benefit of starting maybe on the front 2 or 3 rows, then you will be in with a very strong chance indeed of being able to take victory. But if you find yourself in qualifying maybe midfield, maybe sort of just inside the top 30, it's going to be a long afternoon, because it'll take the best part of the first stint, the first 1 hour stint, to get yourself to any kind of position, and that's assuming you can make progress. So this is why I'm putting such a big emphasis on the value of qualifying in the first 3 or 4 rows.
So, loads of pressure on the drivers. Today it's about getting the setup right. Tomorrow morning is when they've absolutely got to deliver in that qualifying session. Just to reiterate, all 3 of the drivers go out one after another, starting at 9 o'clock. It's going to be very, very quick fire and very, very important this time at the clinching round. Miguel Ramos, he went fairly well in the bronze test yesterday in the number 27 Lamborghini. That's one of the 2 Daiko Lazarus racing cars. He's sharing that one with Fabrizio Cristani and Giuseppe Cipriani, and the sister car with the blue livery, Toby Sowry. Now that's a late change to the entry list. I'll have to try and work out whose seat he's taken, but better make notes. So many drivers queuing up to have a little taste if they can. The other change I can tell you is that Anders Fjordbach, who raced in the Blancpain Series in 2015 with his brother, he lives locally, and Pierre Caffer suddenly couldn't drive the 55 Attempto Racing Audi, so Anders got the call, lives just around the corner, loves the circuit, and he and his brother have been racing in, I'm still trying to tow that away, in the European Le Mans Series in a P2 class car, so it's a big change for him, but any chance to come and play in the Blancpain, he's delighted to take it.
Andrea Bertolini, what a name, a Ferrari, almost literally part of the family in every sense. Andrea Bertolini in the 53 Ferrari F Corsa, Nick Hummerson and Marcello. So it's still, I don't know why it's taking such a long time to get the 51 Ferrari pulled away from the tyre bale.
Well, it's moved, but not very far. There's not a lot of activity. I've got 3 marshals I can see pushing the nose of the car. It's being towed away. Now, Davide Rigon, he's a driver who is just always on it, and has been paired this year with Mikel Aleshin and Miguel Molina. That's definitely a dark horse. What's towing it? Well, you can see the tow coming in from the left.
Well, the tow strap is now just about, okay, they're putting it now. And well, they're managing to get it eventually. They're trying to get the driver of the tow vehicle to pull away to the right, so as the Ferrari is being pulled into the tyre bales every time they manage to pull it, so they need to get the tow vehicle to pull it way to the right so it comes away. As we look at the 76 Aston Martin, and that Matt Bavier and Jake Dennis, Nicky Team, somebody who I've been a champion of. Jake Dennis doing a brilliant job also for the team, and Bavier, who has been stunning. Now,
this weekend, new driver lineup in the 22 Nissan from Team RJN. We've got Colin Noble, very promising young Scottish driver, joining Ricardo Sanchez and Stuart Moore. Stuart's been the backbone of that car. Ricardo came on board. 23, this is the car we saw in the hands of Matt Parry, going high, wide and handsome, as you say, at turn 9. Got away with it, but that was a big moment on effectively the start of his first flying lap. He's sharing with Alex Buncombe, not unfortunately with Lucas Ordonez, who broke his shoulder in cycle training before his home event. He's absolutely gutted.
Absolutely.
Not to be,
and
to be here.
How many drivers, when they go out training on bicycles, end up falling off or having a tumble or doing something and hurting themselves?
Yeah, it's really. So Jan Martin has been brought back. How's that for a substitute? Of course, he cut his teeth in the Blancpain series after winning the original Nissan Research.
So they sit. The 51 Ferrari now has been returned behind the barriers on the outside. So when that car is going to finally make its way back and be returned back to the pits, which is of course on the inside of the racetrack, winning is still under red flag conditions, but people preparing. They're coming down the pit lane and waiting for the pit lane to be open. Fast lane is open, so they're now permitted to exit their pits.
10 seconds and we should be green all over again, and let's see how it hangs out this time. Which manufacturer is going to get to the top, which team, which driver. And I suppose if you're looking, if Raffaele Marciello has a really good shot at taking all 3 titles here, he has got to have his car, the 88 Mercedes, at the front of the queue. So Tristan Vautier, who should be in the car at the moment, Danny Juncker knows this circuit very well, being a Spaniard. Ironically, a Spaniard who spent most of his career racing internationally, so probably knows Hockenheim even better than his home circuit. And then Raffaele should take it over. There is the car I'm talking about, yellow and black, with a 088 on the windscreen. Those are the car's numbers, not their qualifying positions or practice positions. So, beautiful morning here at Barcelona. It was 21 degrees when the session originally started. We're nearly half an hour on from that, so you can be sure every temperature, air temperature, track temperature, etc., will have risen and continue to do so, Don.
And, you know, everybody now going back out. Some people had a flying lap, some got a couple of flying laps in. Dries van Thor was the one that succeeded in doing the best of that with a 144.9, 8/10 of a second quicker than Vincent April in the number 8 Bentley. So, very quick, very strong performance from the number 8 Bentley. And we're looking at the Team Parker Bentley coming down pit lane exit, just clipping again, you've got to remind your drivers, you must not clip or run over the blend line on the exit of that pit lane, because that is a no-no. It's just one of those simple things. It's a discipline you just got to instill in yourself and make sure that you don't do it. If you do it in the race, that'll be a penalty for a stupid little infringement like that.
Yeah, don't put it into your muscle memory. Remove all elements of that. Just looking at those signs, you mentioned Dries van Thor fastest, literally, as only the top 20-odd cars did a flying lap. But we have 5 manufacturers in the top 5 positions. Dries van Thor's Audi, Vincent Abril's Bentley, Michael Meadows' Mercedes, Luca Ludwig's Ferrari, and Seb Morris in the Team Parker Racing Bentley. But these times will all be superseded very, very soon indeed. But it's about getting the track time in, sweeping onto the start finish straight. Comes that 88 Mercedes with the sister car, number 90, black with a shiny silver roof, crossing the start finish line.
Well, the Audi and 88 Mercedes trying to get the best of the opening lap, where they can maybe get some opportunity to get a clear lap. It is really difficult, and if you get caught behind a car that's either on an out lap or coming in on a lap in the wrong part of the racetrack, that just blows any attempt you have. So it is imperative that everybody gets out and basically uses the clear track opportunity to the maximum effect. Tristan Vautier behind the wheel of 88 at the minute, showing obviously first flying lap, personal best in the first sector, comes down into this. It's always difficult, turn 5, it falls away from you. Then through turn 6, which is nothing more than a curve, up into this turn 7 and 8 complex. Easy to make a mistake at that part, overrun into the painted part of the circuit. That the challenging corner of this circuit, turn 9. I mean, it's a real hang on and hope you're going to get through it every time. But a great corner. Then downhill, braking. It has been at times on the approach into turn 10 bumpy in certain parts of the circuit, but doesn't look to be too bad.
Yes, I think turn 9 is one of those corners where you're coming up a hill and you're at the crest. It's a bit like Coppice at Donington. You have to commit before you can see what you're doing. And yes, knowledge here is a huge, huge thing. Looking to see what this lap will be, the final few sequence of corners. And then eventually, of course, through turn 16 onto the start finish straight, they will come. There we go now, through turn 16. Bright conditions here. Well, not very tidy at the end of the lap, was it?
Dries van Thor's gone already and got 7/10 of a second quicker and has done a 144.203. He's now 1.5 seconds quicker than second quickest Michael Meadows in the 35 Mercedes. Dries van Voor is absolutely, and there he is, I mean, stunning first flying lap since this session. Got back to green flag conditions. Now, of course, he's got the same problem everybody else. He's catching up to some of the cars that will not be running as quick, but already, again, fastest overall in Sector 1. The number 1 Audi with Dries van Voor behind the wheel. He's going to lose time in the second sector because he's going to get stalled out behind the Ferrari, unless it lets him go through, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So, pace aplenty from Dries van Voor.
Pace aplenty, and I think Dries hasn't achieved what he would have hoped for this season. We've seen speed at every single circuit. We've seen some astonishingly good racing from Dries, and yet those big results have largely escaped him. So he needs to keep his mojo up. He has got to pick off a bigger one here this weekend. And really, for him, one the door should match the number at the end of the race. He should be. He has to be gunning for victory.
Yeah, he looked to go down into turn 10, get down the inside of the Ferrari, but there wasn't really. The opportunity wasn't quite close enough to make it stick. If he had shot down the inside, it would probably have been an overshoot anyway. Best thing you can do is just drop back and let the Ferrari continue doing what it's doing.
While it's very busy,
or it may well come into the pits.
He may well, but while we've still got some cars sitting in the pits.
There he goes, into the pit lane. So Dries van Voor dominantly needs to do. It's now 25. It's the Sunderlock Marcus Winkelhoff and Christopher Hauser, in fact, behind the wheel, has gone second quickest. Only 7/10 of a second behind Dries van Voor.
Well, that just emphasises what a great job Dries did. Of course, he took the opening victory with Alex Riberas and Christopher Mies. Since then, 4th, retired, and actually classified as 40th in the Spa 24 Hours, but it was over and out for them. So a victory as a bookend to their season is really what they're going for. And of course, his teammates Riberas and Mies have a chance of the overall Blancpain Pro title. They're only short distance behind Raffaele Marciello. He's in the driving seat in that one, but there's still an opportunity.
Well, I mean, it's changing literally every second. The Pro-Am car, 42, has now gone second quickest, so that's the Stracker Racing, Chris Buncombe, Nick Leventis, Lewis Williamson. So that's the fastest Pro-Am car within 6/10 of a second of the quickest Pro car, and it's literally almost by cars coming across start-finish line as we look at Alexander Sims, Jesse Krohn and Philippe Eng in the 99 Road Racing BMW. Where will that place itself into the top 10? Is that going to be a top 10 slot? Don't see it in,
I don't even see
top
in the top 40, John. Already got cars being warned for speeding in the pit lane. 22 Sanchez, that was one of the RJM Nissan, so Bob Neville won't be happy with his driver if that's the case, and likewise Wolfgang Trieler, someone else having a very, very dusty exit from turn 16. It was actually saw the dust out of the window. It was one of the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris that almost joined where the 51 Ferrari had been earlier, but just got away with it.
Well, the BMW coming out of turn 3 was way, way wide. I mean, four wheels off what would be the racetrack into the territory of abusive track limits. So still we've got the number 1 Audi. Christopher Mies has taken over the wheel from Dries van Voor. Tristan Vautier in the 88, that's the car that can walk away with both championships, or the driver of that car can walk away. Currently that's now up into 9th place, so they're finding some pace. Matt Parry in the 23 Nissan in 10th, that's the Gen 2 Nissan.
That's exactly so, but that opening lap from Dries van Voor, opening flying lap from him, and he was going even better on his second one before he got a little bit blocked by one of the Ferraris. Brought it back in, he's handed it over to Christopher Mies, but that's really obscured the whole thing because it's still 6/10 of a second fastest than the best of the rest. We look at other teams putting their times, it's not qualifying at the moment, it's practice, but they're 1.5 seconds off. But if you take his 6/10 away, they're within half a second of the rest of the pace. Cars coming in and out of the pit lane, of course, they're having to put a rotation of 3 drivers
go through as quickly as possible.
And the car being pushed the wrong way out the pit lane is the Bentley that the one that limped out of the pit lane and has been brought back in, pushed up the hill, slightly unusual, and being returned to its pit garage.
Another good performance so far. Mark Codrick in the Silver Cup. Barwell Motorsport currently 4th quickest, so they'll be very happy with that. That's back in the pit. That time was established about 4 or 5 minutes ago. In fact, at one point it was 3rd quickest.
So busy on the track and starting to be busy in the pit lane as well as these teams. They had an hour and a half to play. We've lost about 20 minutes when the red flag period was there because the 51 Ferrari the spirit of race car of Duncan Cameron needed to be recovered, along with the Bentley that was at the side of the circuit. So Kelvin van der Linde's car number 66, on screen at the moment. That's in the mix. He's fifth in the endurance Cup for the pro drivers, and at the moment he's running 14th on the screen and not going to improve. He's just entered the pits. The curse of pointing to the timing screen, it always invariably pulls the car in. But Kelvin van der Linde with his brother Sheldon van der Linde has been very, very strong this year, and sharing with actually Kelvin's been sharing with Stein Schotthorst in this series and Peter Schotthorst. There's even another Schotthorst called Freak who's racing junior single-seaters, so clearly the Schotthorst family churning out the young drivers.
There is, I think the number 8 it is. That was very quick initially before the red flag came out. Now currently down in 20th place, Vincent Abril still behind the wheel. So there is the very, very sophisticated, very advanced Bentley Continental GT3, and looking to see what ultimate pace of this car will be. I mean, everybody, of course, is going to be affected by, to some degree, a balance of performance, whether that's working favourably in the favour of Bentley or maybe not, depends. But one thing is for sure, when everything is right with this car, and they've really, it's almost like a work in progress this year. It's been such a departure in terms of technology. It has been a relearning process for the M Sport team to tap into the full potential of the Gen 2 or Series 2 of the Bentley GT3 Continental.
I must say, still one of the highlights of being here 12 months ago was Maxime Soulet hunting his way up through the order in the latter stages of the race a year ago in his Bentley. Different days, different times, different car, but the car going better and better. It's still the best time, 1 minute 44.203 seconds. That was set quite some while ago now by Dries van Tor. Christopher Mies has taken over that number 1 Audi, but for a lot of the teams it's getting their way to the front. That lap of Philippe Eng put him when he got as high as 13th. He's tumbling down to 14th. Other people moving forward. So the BMW not yet on it, but this hour and a half is now really starting to be fretted away. You have to get all 3 drivers through the car, and so that will slightly compromise what they're trying to do. But they all will need track time.
Just particularly as well, the Straka Mercedes coming down straight. Lewis Williamson is the Pro-Am entry from Straka Racing, still holding that second place currently, behind the number 1 Audi at the time set by Dries van Tor, still 0.6 of a second behind, and as yet none of the other teams have been able to challenge. He's at a tenth and a bit ahead of Christopher Hauser as we look at the number 4.
Well, this is the car that's second in the championship, John. Jelmer Berman, Maro Engel and Lucas Stolz. Berman set the time at the moment, and they are 8th fastest, 9/10 of a second down on that fantastic lap from the Audi, but just 3/10 of a second down on the best of the rest. So this is very much in the mix, Black Falcon.
Yeah, and within the Straka Black Falcon, the Mercedes designated teams, this is one of the cars that is potentially a winning car. I mean, it has been especially quick with Jelmer Berman and Lucas Stolz behind the wheel all year, and Maro Engel. I mean, how could you choose who's the best of those 3?
The stopwatch, John, the stopwatch. That's what
the arbiter. The arbiter.
It is quite a useful arbiter, but sweeping through for another lap. So it was 8th fastest. Is there going to be an improvement this time? Yes, there is. It goes 2nd fastest, just under a quarter of a second down on the ultimate pace. Very good lap from the Dutchman.
That's the first time in the last 5 or so minutes that the time established by the number 1 Audi has been even looked like getting challenged, and has come from the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes. Bit of cooperation from traffic, letting it go through cleanly. Here we're long exit of turn 3, easy to run too wide on the outside. I mean, a mega commitment, because the car is just balancing on the level. Oh, Jelmer, hold on to it, my son. There's just a little bit of rear end lack of grip, and he had to get opposite lock on, stay off the throttle. Catches up to the traffic. I think it's the Team Parker Bentley directly ahead of him. So the momentum that has been building took him down to 2nd quickest overall. That's going to slow down. It's going to come to a virtual standstill. The tail of the Bentley just flicks as it goes through turns 6 and 7 and 8, up the hill into 9, runs the curve, clearly the Mercedes way quicker. The Bentley pulls over in effect to let the number 4 Mercedes go through, but time, of course, on this lap lost for Hjalmar Berman, and he's still got one of the Ferraris directly ahead.
Yeah, but you're talking there about, we just mentioned Black Falcon, but also Stracker. Stracker have now got 2 cars in the top 4 because Lewis Williamson has been pushed back to 4th, but Felipe Fraga has put the 44 car from Stracker Racing. He's showing that with Oliver Rowland and Christian Vittoris, and Felipe Fraga is the least well known of those drivers, but very good lap from him there.
Well,
third fastest.
Are you sort of stating that maybe this is going to turn into a Mercedes circuit?
Not yet. I was going to wait another 10 minutes.
3 of the 4, I would say, and just sometimes you get a circuit where different points in its evolution will favour one brand over another. But what is pretty clear is that 3 Mercedes in the top 4, that's a pretty strong gang to beat up the poor little number 1 Audi, who's currently his quickest overall still.
Other people looking to play that number 6 Black Falcon car. This is the one Abdulaziz Al Faisal, Hubert Hout, and Gabriele Piana. And so the great liveries, the bright metallic blue of the number 4 car, the silver and black of the number 5 Black Falcon Mercedes, and then the metallic green of number 6.
It's amazing.
I do like it when cars actually all have their own liveries.
Well, I mean, these cars have what they call wraps. It's not a paint job. It's a wrap is the best way to describe it, and you can come up with the most weird and lucid, almost dreamlike colour scheme. And it enables teams then to very quickly change to suit whatever the requirements that technically is the sponsorship requirements or the desire of those drivers.
Yeah, well, Abdulaziz Al Faisal, very, very proud, obviously, Saudi driver, has always, with the Black Falcon team, had the green of Saudi Arabia on his cars in some form or other. So it's Hubert Hout who's just coming out to take over from him. Out on the circuit, how are the Aston Martins going? 76, just saw it flashing through the screen. That's Mathieu Bassivier. Expect that to be at the sharp end, but not on our top timing screen unless my eyes correct a mistake. Oh, I can find him in 27th position.
There he is.
Best lap, 1.8 seconds down. So it is starting to tighten up in the thing, but just expect Mathieu to get it there. If the car is capable, he is capable very much. That John mentioned earlier is absolutely stunning, really, really impressive pole lap at the Silverstone round. When other drivers come up and really shake a driver by the hand, you know, ooh, he joined all those dots together.
He certainly did, and our motorsport have come into Blancpain endurance events this year, have done an excellent job. They've been a most professional operation, and it's just interesting to see how they will perform here on a track that is notoriously difficult to, if you've not had experience of it. But the Aston, the V12 howls away.
Well, clear track in front of Bassivier through turn 9, just running slightly wide. They all pretty much do at the crest of the hill there. Then they go down the infield straight, past the back of the control tower and into the left-hander. And then it's quite fiddly, the next few corners, John, really, you know, point and squirt.
Yes, it's not particularly fulfilling in terms of driving, particularly coming through this long right-hander. And turn 12 is one of the bogey corners, because if you can get a good lap going and get to turn 12 and it all can just dissipate. And then you've got this final chicane, which has really spoiled the rhythm of the racetrack, but was installed principally for safety reasons to slow down the approach and exit speeds off turn 16. Well done a number of years ago.
No major improvements from Bassivier, just lost his on-my timing screen. 27th he was, 27th he remains, and very close to his previous best, in fact within a tenth of a second. But obviously he'd be wanting the improvements, but weren't coming his way. Lamborghini out on the circuit. Nothing yet from the Grasser Racing Lamborghinis at the front end of the field.
They are actually 63, up in 6th place.
Oh, suddenly just done that, okay.
Yeah, just popped up there, so we're seeing...
well, we're looking at Richard Amber on the 77 Car Bar World Motorsports entering 2 this weekend. Richard showing with Adrian Amstutz and Leah Mashitsky, and they are well placed, I seem to recall, in the AM Championship. They're leading the AM Championship for endurance drivers, the Endurance Cup, ahead of Chris Goodwin,
Alexander West,
Harrison West,
Chris Goodwin.
17-point advantage in the AM Endurance Drivers' Cup.
I mean, that's been one of the good news stories that sadly gets overlooked. when you're looking at overall results and the top three. But that car has done a great job, and then the line of Alexander West, Chris Goodwin and Chris Harris have had a wonderful seat.
Yeah, and it's good to have McLaren in the mix as well, so good. So no improvement there from that particular Lamborghini. Richard Abra down in 48th position, still 5 cars behind him though, so it just shows the size of this field. Actually 4 cars behind him, 52 cars out to play. Fantastic morning here at the Circuit de Catalunya. Super slow-mo, let's have a look. Ooh, that's a correction, but a correction that kept the car on the track. So Richard Abra, a British driver, keeping it on the island. I think he rather surprised himself, got a little bit too close to the back of the Mercedes.
He almost overran, because everybody kind of backing up, the 3 cars directly ahead of him were all backing each other up to get track position. And Richard Abra arrived at the closing speed quicker than he was able to deal with, and had to get off the throttle, and the back end of the car did snap out.
At this time of general changing over from the first to the second driver, very few improvements. The most notable one recently, just outside the top now, 10 now from Carrera. I was mentioning the Grasser Racing Lamborghinis. He's sharing that with Phil Keane and Rolf Ineichen.
My memory of Phil Keane goes back a few weeks to a glorious Sunday when you were present, Bruce, and we had a masterclass on how to drive a front-engined historic sports car. It was blinding drive by Phil Keane.
What you forget to mention, John, or one of the keys to the whole element was the fact that he had to start from the pit lane, so effectively was at the back of the field and worked his way through to the front. And poor Roger Wills thought he had it in the bag, and then he came through. It was astonishing. But Phil, fantastic in historic cars, but really, really brilliant.
A very self-effacing person.
Absolutely.
Yet behind the wheel, and he's behind the Grasser Racing 82 with Rolf Ineichen and Frank Pereira, two established. Phil Keane races in British GT with the Barbell lineup, and has been elevated up into a slightly, you might say, the pro category alongside Ineichen and Frank Pereira, which is a recognition of his talent.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's been clear for some while to come, and I think Phil Keane will be an absolute stalwart of GT racing for the next decade and more, because he is just simply that good. You give him a bit of traffic and he's right on it. Looking there at the 42 car, Chris Buncombe on board the Straka Racing Mercedes at the moment, sharing that with Nick Leventis and Lewis Williamson. Lewis was the driver that put it up into the top elements of the charts, went second fastest, has been pushed back to 4th, but running through the laps as they have to here on the Saturday. And at the moment, that is the car that is the Pro-Am Endurance Cup leader. 87 points to them. Cameron and Griffin, 74. But more to the point, Cameron and Griffin was the car that went off very early on. He's losing valuable track time, that 51 Ferrari. And there's one other crew that can still topple them. An absolute outside shot is Alexander Matchell and Rinat Salikov in their Ferraris. That's the Pro-Am Endurance Cup battle at the moment, but it's looking very good for this Straka Racing.
Well, the downside for the 51 Ferrari was it was pulled off from the gravel trap behind the barrier, but on the outside of the circuit, and whether that car will be able to be then returned to the pit lane and given back to the team and enable them to work on it, I suspect it will not. And it's an hour and a half of practice. Remember, qualifying will take place, well, in fact, tomorrow morning. It might be over by now, just coming to conclusion. But it's that they need to get that information, what our track condition is going to be like 24 hours from now. We need to know, because that's how we will then go about getting our car ready for our shot at doing the best we can in qualifying.
Well, these ways the teammate Lorenzo Bontempi got track time yesterday, was top of the bronze test, so at least he has got mileage around the circuit. We see the Lexus pulling off in an unusual position, because we've just been looking at the 42 Straka Mercedes. That's shot by in the background. Christian Klein trying to, I think, just get out of the way. He's in front of the Oman Racing Aston Martin.
Was that just a little error from Christian Klein coming into turn 1 that caused him to run wide and go behind the sausage curbing on the outside of turn 1 that lends into turn 2, and the 88 Mercedes also slips up the inside of the Lexus. It needs to just let these cars that are currently on flying laps go through cleanly. So regroup, Christian Klein, and start all over again.
So ready for the 88 Mercedes. It was hunting down the Oman Racing Aston Martin. At the moment it's Danny Juncadella on board, down in 14th place. So that was his little battle. He thought, I just have to get past the Aston Martin, and then suddenly Christian Klein going slow. So that really has affected the lap quite badly indeed. 888 Audi, don't see so much of that these days. The Car Connection Motorsport car. Mike Hanch on board this weekend again. Tony Fournet and Frank Stippler. And Frank's the driver at the wheel.
Well, Frank put him behind anything he's going to be a star. Interesting third place now, provisionally currently. Christian Vittoris in another Stracker Racing, the 44 Mercedes. So it is now third quickest, 0.3 of a second behind still the number 1 Audi, which retains that position from stunning time done by Dries van Voor when this session got back underway. So the 44, Frank Fraga, Oliver Rowland.
Yeah,
a name that probably more familiar with single-seater, but spreading out and opportunities coming along in GT3 and Blancpain to develop, and Christian Vittoris.
Christian Klein just limped into the pit lane there. Frank Stippler continues to improve the form for the 888 Audi. He's down in 29th position at the moment, so plenty of room for improvement. Still the target time, 1 minute 44.203 seconds, set right at the start of the session by Dries van Voor. His teammate Christian Mies on board at the moment, but doing very much a program a lot of these teams are doing a little bit in and out of the pits, more than they'd expect. We lost 20 minutes while the 51 Ferrari was being dragged clear on the exit of turn 16, but track conditions should be absolutely fine. They've swept their into turn 16. Looking at Stippler going through, he accelerates, well, he's gained several positions up to 26th position overall, but at the moment it's a little bit in and out of the pits for a lot of these drivers. There's a car coming in, that was number 14, that was Christian Klein, his Emil Frey Racing Lexus, shared with Marco Seefried and Albert Costa. Of course, they were winners at Paul Ricard in the 6 hours.
Stefano Telly, and the 90 Mercedes. And who's behind the wheel of that? That was Nico Bastian and Jack Manchester are sharing.
Yeah, and it is Jack Manchester. It's Jack Manchester on board at the moment. Yeah, and he's just managed to get out of that gravel onto the grass.
Again, trying to identify which part of the circuit that is. It's up at turn 9. Take us up at turn 12 on the entry.
Around, isn't it?
So I don't know quite how he got there. It's a sort of unusual position to see a car off of the racetrack. As we look into the Nexus garage to see what's going on. Again, you can see how much this car resembles the car you're going to buy at your showroom, because the entire front is a carbon fibre moulding that they can lift off and get full access to the front suspension, and then likewise into the engine bay.
Well, why the long face? Marco Seefried clearly not all right there. You saw Marco looking on from the right hand side of the screen. He's now walked out of the way to let the mechanics do their stuff, but as long as there's a clear reason as to what the problem is, drivers are normally relatively happy. If it can be sorted, yeah, no, he looks a little happier than he did 30 seconds ago. But certainly Christian Klein, we saw him limping around the circuit and coming in, and not a quick time to the name.
So this is Jack Manchester. Oh, that is very strange. It just came out of 11
going
under
up
power, and then just seemed to make no attempt to turn at all into turn. Look, number, is that, which of the black Volker Mercedes is that?
That's number 4. Oh, it's not. It's of course 87, which is the one of the ACA cars. Nico Jama, Mauro Ricci, and Jean-Luc Bovelic. 21st fastest according to the timing on the number on the screen, but little slips here and there, and certainly that one of Jack Manchester's was very, very unusual, and slightly hit into my commentary box, but not in a place where you'd ever think of looking.
Well, I've never seen a car actually go straight out of the exit of 11 up into 12, and never even attempt to turn into turn 12.
We were talking at the garage 59, Alexander Vest, Chris Harris, Chris Goodwin, McLaren. Here it is. This is the car that's very, very well placed. It's second in the AM Endurance title battle. That's the one that's trying to hunt down the Barwell Lamborghini of Adrian Amstutz and Leo Mashitsky. Garage 59 also, that puts them second overall, in the overall AM honours for the year. So very much could be the big prize on offer for the 188 McLaren.
Is that the 114 Lexus behind? That was flashing its lights. I think it might be, but it is a Stefano Telli behind the wheel.
Well, good to have Stefan back. He obviously got a little bit knocked about in his shunt in Spa 24 hours.
It was a nasty shunt. It
would take wild horses to stop Stefan racing cars, so he's delighted he was able to be back on board for this weekend, so he can close his season out and go into the off season as a racing driver, not as someone who's still on the injury list.
Yes, I mean, when you get badly shaken, and his body got a severe shaking up, and your concussion that comes with that, you obviously you want to get back as quickly as possible, but you have to also respect that any kind of injury of that effect just takes time to settle down.
And also, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. Stefan is no spring chicken anymore. He's just south of 50, but only just. He's turning 50 in 2020, so it does take a little longer, certainly as you get older, for your body to heal. But great to have this racer back on board. And Chris Goodwin, of a similar age, I'd say, pretty much, out pushing to see where he can put that McLaren. Of course, it's a subplot. There are many subplots within this overall battle here.
And Chris Goodwin is, you might say, a born-again race driver, because he's bought himself a little Lucas 22 Formula Junior, and he's discovered the joys of racing lightweight historic single-seaters.
Well, I like the more the merrier, because I think the more that people can play in lots and lots of different sorts of cars, and all the joy. He's been a test driver for so many years for McLaren, now he's moved on to Aston Martin, but out here racing, and I know that he, Alexander West and Chris Harris are having just a lot of fun this season as much as a great load of success. Here is the one car that knows it's a championship combination, Neil Stephenhart and Marcus Winkelhock. There's Antonov Racing Audi. They are the overall Blancpain GT Pro-Am champions, but so they're here to race. Yeah, so they've got to pick up positions.
You just get an illustration of what traffic does. Almost three cars tripping over one another, and the Nissan just steps aside to let one of the two Bentleys come through. So it is a big problem. Where do you find your opportunity for a clear lap? You get stopped, held up behind a Ferrari that's going into the pits. It could have been more cooperative. Now the Bentley's all over the back of the 26 as they come on to start finish straight.
I think I better just clear something up. I was talking about the sister car. There's
the damage.
There's the 51
They've got
Ferrari.
it back now, they'll get pit lane.
Oh yes, just gone under the control tires. They've got it round to the circuit. So that's the damage from where it hits the tyre wall behind the gravel trap on turn 16.
Certainly it's left front bodywork. A little bit of rear bodywork. The question is, has any suspension damage taken place? And the left front will certainly need serious investigation, as probably will the left rear, because it looks like it sort of hit with the nose and the back swung around and slammed or side slapped the tyre barrier. Careful, that the land line. He was almost tempted to cut across it, then the old memory clicked in and said no, stay to the right of that land line.
Still that amazing lap from Dries van Tor, 1 minute 44.203 seconds. The number 4 Mercedes is second fastest behind that number 1 Audi now, just 2.237 of a second down. 63 hasn't really shown it. 6th fastest. It's got Andrea Caldarelli on board at the moment, but just sort of when the cars went out on the circuit, often Grasser hold their cars back for a lap or so. They'll just building up to speed.
Two things. I don't know what tyre options teams used when they went out. The track opened up at 9 o'clock, and then we had that red flag, and then they went back again sort of 20 minutes later. But what's pretty evident, there's not a lot of change now occurring within the top 20. You get the odd little spike popping up, but the times that were established when the tyre on all the cars would have been at its freshest is the time that's remaining. And this is the old story here in Barcelona.
Yeah, I mean, the absolute proof of that, John, is we have 2 timing screens. The first shows positions 1 to 20, the second 21 to 40th. There is not one bit of green on our screens, therefore no improvement on time. Anyway, you might have thought in some of the crews they put their least experienced driver out early on. Someone else can come in, they can get the setup changed and have improvement, but nothing, not a thing.
I mean, the only way that any time improvements, I believe, will occur will be if a team opts to run again a fresh set of rubber, or I don't think anybody's going to use a U set, but certainly the freshest of what they have available. Where that
plenty of understeer there from Andrea Caldarelli.
It was an oversteer. He turned in, he was off the apex, turned in, the back end snapped away.
Oh, well.
So Andrea Caldarelli was not. He wasn't quite picking up the apex, and as a consequence, the left rear just gave up, and he had to go quick lift of the throttle, a quick turn left hand down to correct the slide. Got it all under control, as you'd expect.
But already earlier in the lap, around the very first few corners, a car in front of him had run a little wide, puffed some dust up into the air. So even if you have a bit of track space, your eye is ahead of you thinking, it's going to be gravel from where they've just had that moment in front of me. Am I lifting?
I've just seen a time in a green, in a field of yellow and a little bit of white.
It's a Nissan.
It's a Nissan. It's Alex Bunker, the number 23, currently in 17th position. 145.537. His last lap was 146.7. He's got a personal best in Sector 1. Sector 2 is...
It's so-so.
No.
We've got a spin.
There's a lot of action on track this morning. So Alex Buncombe doesn't improve. It's 146.6. So it's virtually identical to his last lap time. Strange we're seeing so many unforced errors. Here we say again, it's coming through turn 11. And all of a sudden, it looked the Ferrari accelerated hard when the Audi also likewise looked like it got very loose at the exit of turn 12.
Well, I'm rather pleased. I hadn't even seen that car on the entry list. Jens Lieberhaus, a 777 Ferrari. So it's a Kessel Racing example. Yeah, well, tricky moments. And as I was just saying with Andrea Caldarelli, just in front of him, someone had just slightly been off. And there's always that question of what you're going to find when there's so many cars, and a few certainly taking slightly compromised lines around the corner. Still that target time, 1 minute 44.203 seconds. Looking at the Bentley going slowly, or more to the point, going quickly, but no improvements, as is the pattern now. The 911 Porsche just putting in the laps, but Dirk Werner is down in 30th position overall, not where you'd expect to find him. So the Porsche needs to pick up its pace.
Bruce, you asked me the question, could the Porsche win here this weekend? If its starting position were to be where it is presently 30th, you'd have to say, other than flood, pestilence, act of God or whatever, no. And that's a fact of life. But you can still do a lot of very good work, and a professional crew like the Manthey Racing team, with the driver lineup that they've got in this 911 car, 911 Porsche, Romain Dumas, Dirk Werner, Fred Makiewicz, stellar driver lineup. But if the car hasn't got the out-and-out pace, especially when it comes to qualification, it'll be a long afternoon for the three drivers at 911.
But again, it just shows the level of competition in the Blancpain series, how it continues to rise and rise. The fact we've had 4 endurance rounds, 4 different manufacturers winning. Mercedes hasn't won yet this year, Porsche hasn't won yet this year, Ferrari hasn't won this year. Still a lot to play for. John?
I'm just going to say that the 911 Porsche has been demoted one position by the 49 Ram Racing Mercedes, Tom Onslow Cole, Ramon Voss. So that car is one of the very few that in the last 10 minutes has made some progress, and it's deposed this car, the 911, from 30th to 31st. And you wonder what's the answer for that? Is it because suddenly the drivers in the 49 Mercedes are driving more quickly than the drivers in 911? Well, in essence they are, but it's because currently the Mercedes, the 49 Ram Racing Mercedes, is just simply the quicker of the two cars.
And also not having to spend so much time changing drivers. That's one of, I think, only 3 entries in the field that's down listed as having just 2 drivers. That's Raymond Voss and Tom Onslow Cole. The number 11 Ferrari, Kessel Racing's example, Michel Bronichewski is sharing with Alessandro Pierguidi, but nobody else. And Eric Debar sharing with Fabien Barthez in the 89 ACA ASP Mercedes. So they've got a bigger driver onus this weekend, but for a lot of drivers they rather like that. But vast majority of the crews, clearly 50-odd crews, will be running 3 driver lineups.
And that Mercedes has made further progress. It's now up to 24th. It got up to 30th, and again on its following lap. That would say to me, maybe there's fresh rubber on that 49 Mercedes, because suddenly, why would you make that little degree of progress coming out of nowhere?
Yeah, when no one else has managed anything of the sort.
It doesn't matter, it's all just a bit of hypothesis on our part. If we look at the 23 Nissan, Christian Clean sort of wondering, will I move down the inside? Has he spotted me?
Has whatever's been fixed been fixed? It clearly has. That car with the Austrian driver up to speed all over again, but not at the sharp end of the field by anyone's imagination.
And not knowing which of the three drivers was in the number 5 Mercedes. So just being, one might say, cautious or prudent. No need to go to war at this phase, but nonetheless, the 14 Lexus, whereabouts we're looking at, well, it's 25th at the minute.
Rare chance to see the remaining Lamborghini Gallardo. That's the writer Young Stars entry. Patrick Niederhausen then in Marinek and Mads Sillinghausen, they were just in the background. So of course, with Lamborghini having moved on several seasons ago to Huracans, it's good to still see a Gallardo out there fighting, but Huracan very much the way to go. Now, is this going to be a better lap from Christian Klein? It's early stage of the lap, so no time yet on the board, but no green for him. Now back in the pits at 76, Aston Martin, John R. Motorsport. That's the Matteo Vassilier, Jake Dennis, Nicky Team example we've been talking about, and yet to see a really good deliverance of speed from them, but out onto the circuit they go.
Yeah, just on to go back, just you were talking about Lamborghini at the final round of the Blancpain Sprint Championship at Nürburgring a fortnight ago. Lamborghini introduced the Evo version of the Huracan, which will be the basic premise for future GT3 race categories, and again apparently significantly advanced on the current Huracan, addressing issues that the current car has to work around. So waiting to see that car coming into effect sometime in 2019.
Well, one of the strangest things with that, John, was the fact, as we look at this amazing pack of cars, including some Huracans, was the fact that the press release rather stated it had just a sort of slightly revised rear wing and a little different under tray, but you looked at it and it seemed there was very little that was still the same. I mean, it looks as a massive move forward.
I spoke to one of the journalists there, Andrew Kahn, who is knowledgeable and very knowledgeable, and Andrew went through with me all the changes. I mean, it's virtually a new car. I mean, in as much as you look at the Bentley Continental GT3, it is also it is a brand new car in every sense. And what they did with the Bentley, and I think I've maybe mentioned this previously, is when they decided to bring out the road version, the updated road version of which the race car is the byproduct, they used the racing department at M Sport to say, well, tell us what you want us to produce so that it'll make it easier for you to produce an even more competitive race car.
Late stage of the session, Marcus Winkelhoff, Simon Gachet, and Neil Stevenard, and that car bouncing all over the place. That's the number 25 Santalot Racing car, pushing hard, but that's sitting actually. Oh, again, is that tallying with my introduction? 25. Got a different name. He's got Fell on it. That must be Ricardo Fell. There is the thing on the screen. I haven't worked out who he's replacing. But the young Swiss racer, teenager, pushing very hard indeed. But that car is 5th on the charts, so that's the second best of the Audi so far. And certainly, you must say that Santalot Racing have really, really risen through the ranks this year.
And again, looking through the first page now, 2-page timing and scoring, there has been effectively no interlopers coming in to the top 20 for 20 minutes now or more. So whether with just over 20 minutes of this session remaining, we will see that what might be considered the number 1 driver and the 3-car driver lineups go out and see what might be the ultimate lap time of the potential from their given entry. Wait and see. So 25 laps the car, Christopher Hassel achieved the current 5th quickest lap time. It was actually 4th at one stage.
But again, in many, many shots, just getting 52 cars out to play on the circuit, it's hard to get a lap in. It's very easy to find incident ahead of you, and certainly Ricardo Feller pushing very hard indeed towards the end of the lap. He should be sweeping down through to the final corner and more than likely into the pit lane. Yes, into pit entry. There he goes. So though the lap showed no improvement, certainly he was pushing very hard indeed, getting to learn this circuit again when you're a young driver. A lot of the pros have been here year in, year out. They know the vagaries of this circuit, the wind, the way it takes the life out of the tyres. Alex Buncombe, he certainly knows Nissan, he certainly knows this circuit, and pressing on.
Yeah, this is his first flying lap. He's had a pit stop. They were obviously making some alterations to this Generation 2 Nissan. So first flying lap on this particular run, so keep an eye on Alex Buncombe to see whether he can actually make any improvement. It might be a personal best. Well, it doesn't appear to be so, not on this particular first sector. So he's now into the longer of the sector, sector 2, which on average is around about 40.8, 40.9 seconds, the quickest we're going to see today.
Well, Alex was, of course, the endurance champion, Blancpain endurance champion with Nissan, but that was back in 2015, hasn't won a round this year, isn't in the amazing list of 15 driver pairings that could still take this year's Blancpain Endurance Drivers' Trophy, but pressing on hard the only way that Alex knows, just looking to see where he can move that car up the charts. But again, first sector no improvement, second sector no improvement. He's not alone. That is the story for everyone out there. In fact, green on our screen, Nicky Team is improving, but he needs to, because his 76 Aston Martin is down in 30th position out of the 52, 53, 54 starters.
30.2 against what is the that's 29.8 for that sector, but we're still keeping an eye on Alex Buncombe. Currently, that 23 Nissan, 17th quickest. We're not seeing anything on this lap that would indicate that we're going to see a further improvement in lap time. So he comes across the line, 146.9 against his previous, his best so far, 145.5. So 1.3 and a bit, 4 seconds.
We know it's busy down there on the track, in the pit lane, but quite a number of drivers are being pinged for pit lane speeding at this stage in the season, at any stage in the season. It is so stupid, but of course, it could really affect them come the race. Just to reiterate, Alex Buncombe in the car, Matt Parry we still have an off, waiting for Jan Mardenborough's laps. Maybe we missed them, but brought back over from racing in Japan, where he's been for about the past 3 seasons. Mardenborough, very, very quick pair of hands. Great history with Nissan, of course. Won the driver's scholarship.
Yep.
And, first gamer to come into motor racing and really make a splash.
In the 31 Team Parker Racing, Ben, Rob Smith, apparently he was the driver behind the wheel, pit lane speeding, team manager and driver, the stewards after the session.
Yeah, please come and
bring your wallet as well.
I was going to say empty your pockets. Bring someone else's wallet, it's far better. So 55 Attempto Racing, now the Kim Lewis Schramm. This is the one that Anders Fjordbach has been brought into this weekend, Danish racer based in Spain, and Jeffrey Schmidt, the Swiss driver. So, big mix, late stage in the season, but lots of drivers also wanted to get their eye in for next year. But in the case of Anders Fjordbach, I think he's raced in the championship before. He's moved on to P2 sports prototype cars, and really just delighted to be given the chance to come out and play one more time.
Well, up the hill and through turn 9. Every time there's an adventure coming through turn 9, you always feel, I could have made a bigger commitment. But you're always, something holds you back. Your own sense of self-preservation, most likely, holds you back. The back end of the Audi just immediately snaps. Oversteer coming into turn 12.
Well, not helping the Lamborghini either, tucks it behind. Certainly that 55 Audi getting a little bit loose in front of the Lamborghini, who'd be probably a bit better to back off. The 82 car, that's the Phil Keane, Rolf United front Carrera car.
Phil Keane behind the wheel, according to timing and scoring. So he's quicker overall on the lap, looks to maybe take benefit of a slightly higher exit speed out of turn 16 to get under the rear wing, but is he going to have a loop on the inside? Is he going to be given he does it. And the 63 Lamborghini, I think that was also just rejoining the track, which that car currently, well, that's the 63 is currently still in 6th place. Maybe it was the 82 that was, or the 19, could have been the 19 Lamborghini that came out.
Yeah, well, let's see what Phil Keane can do in this. He certainly was faster than the 55 Attempto Racing Audi that was sitting in front of him. Now he's going to catching very quickly the Lamborghini Gallardo I was talking of earlier, the Writer Young Stars car. But Phil Keane going to the edge of the circuit, that little bit wider as well. Time and again we see drivers just kicking up the dust. Recently had car number 5, one of the Black Falcon Mercedes, going off the circuit back at turn 10. That's the left-hander at the end of the infield straight. Downhill approach, and plenty of painted tarmac out beyond. But Phil Keane is going to be right on the tail. Out of turn 9, he comes down the slope, right, almost into the slipstream of the Gallardo. Still got 5 more corners after this one to negotiate, and he will really be right under the Gallardo's rear wing at the end of the lap. But might even give him a tow down the start-finish straight. He's trying to tuck up the inside. Phil Keane isn't a driver who hangs back, John.
Well, I mean, the Gallardo was slightly wide in turn 12, and that gave Phil Keane the opportunity. But again, look, why does the Gallardo have to race? It was the slower of the 2 cars, clearly. Okay, Phil Keane put himself in a position where he was never going to get round the left-hand part of that tight sequence of corners. But it's frustrating when you catch a car. The trouble is the Gallardo's got, look, let's watch it again and see. So the 24, the Gallardo, now you can see it accelerating hard to stop the 82 Lamborghini getting ahead. For what purpose?
One Lamborghini on another, but certainly Phil Keane will be a little bit frustrated there. He didn't have any lap improvement times, but he's just trying to get the balance on the car, get a bit of track position. But this is the trouble, you have to work the traffic, and the traffic bit back at that point. So just under a quarter of an hour remaining in this free practice session on the Saturday morning here at the circuit of Catalonia. Just worth pointing out, we came here with there are 14 titles spread across the endurance and the overall Blancpain GT titles. 2 have been settled before coming here. We've got 12 to settle this weekend. We had the sprint titles settled at the Nürburgring 2 weekends ago, but the driver of the 88 Mercedes, Raffaele Marciello, is the driver who's got the possibility of taking overall endurance and sprint cup titles. He's not in the 44 Mercedes. That is being driven Stracco Racing Car, Felipe Fraga, Oliver Rowland on board at the moment, and Christian Vittorius, a good driver lineup. So Felipe Fraga did a good job very early on. 3rd fastest the car is still, but that was from Fraga's time very early on. No improvements. 3/10, nearly 4/10 of a second down on the ultimate pace, but Oliver Rowland trying to make it fly. In fact, set one of the fastest times of recent minutes, 1:46 flat. Doesn't move him up, doesn't move him down. 78 Lamborghini is from Barcelona Motorsports. That's Michele Beretta, Sandy Mitchell, Martin Kodrich car. Kodrich was the driver you mentioned earlier, John.
Who set the time in this car initially. So again, feature on the Barwell Motorsport operation, one of the monthly periodicals, reading it coming out. Very successful Mark Lemmer operation. Christopher Needell, the more famous of the Needell brothers. Sorry, Tiff, I know you're listening.
Yeah. They ran me in a race once, imagine that. In a VW Vento VR6 race. I was truly dreadful. They were a great team, really good fun. I started at the start of the race and I finished at the end, and I didn't come last, but only because other people were worse than I was, but it was very entertaining. And I kept all my spinning for practice.
Very wise, very wise.
Great improvement.
So the
Silverstone short circuit
makes its way down into turn 10. You can see it all looks, pretty textbook stuff. Car looks, it's doing what it's designed to do, but whether the lap time reflects the overall pace. So currently in 7th place. Sandy Mitchell.
Sandy Mitchell.
Yeah. Young Scottish
increasingly
driver.
good driver.
He's done a very good job all year. So comes across start finish line 146 point, 147 point, 148.0. So not any improvement for that number 78.
In fact, the liveliest element of our timing screen is a bit at the bottom with all the warnings that drivers are not respecting track limits, and that one hasn't respected track limits. That's the Tom Onslow Cole car, the Raymond Vos, Tom Onslow Cole. Raymond's on board, the Dutch driver, and he's on board, but the car's not on the circuit.
Yeah, but how do you get off at that part of the circuit? There's no way you should be off there. There's no corner in effect, other than maybe he got loose coming out of turn 5 and tank slapped it all the way down through 6. But again, I can't remember the last time I saw a car at that part of the outside of the end. Let's have a look and see.
Did he just
35?
That's not the SMP car we're looking for. That will go through the. Oh, we're already going inside.
He's going backwards. So an interesting approach to entering into turn 7 is, turn 7 is
yes,
to do a real Scandinavian flick, and I don't know what was it? Oh, another red flag with just 10 minutes of the session remaining. I don't know how much of the 10 minutes will give us track time, but it's been decided that in the interest of safety that car needs to be removed, and the recovery teams need to do it without pressure. What number of race cars have we got here this weekend?
It's over 50, John, because we had 52 listed, but I spotted one car that wasn't on my entry list. That's the 777 car. Excuse me. So that number 1 Audi being top of the timing charts, that was effectively the first flying lap of the session from Dries van Toor. He got challenged by the number 4 Mercedes from Black Falcon, but there have been literally no further improvements. Mercedes looking very strong. You can see second, third and fourth, second best of the Audi. Sansalot Racing number 25. Then 2 Lamborghinis, the 63 from the Grassa Racing team and the 78 car we've just been looking at from Barcelona Motorsports. There is the car that's second fastest, being pushed back into its garage. Number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes. And, Mauro Engel was the last driver to go out in that. He's now been brought back into the pit lane. The red flag still flying out around the circuit as that number 49 Mercedes needs to be recovered. That's the Ram Racing entry. Raymond Voss just slipping up, as John pointed out, in a very unusual position, just turning into turn 7.
Unfortunately, the camera didn't catch the beginning of the incident, so we always saw was the car coming backwards rather than forwards. But
well, to be honest, it was
pretty simple recovery to get it, other than there is a bit of a curve which will probably not do the front splitter much good if it's going to be pulled across it. Hold on, is that £10,000 worth of splitter about to
No, they just moved it slightly to the left, which is a fortunate thing. But actually on the camera shot, John, we saw 2 cars going up through turn 7. The next one started to get a bit loose, and then obviously the cameraman had sensed Raymond coming in backwards. So we never saw what happened to the other one, but it did manage to get away with it. But so for Ram Racing, hopefully it's just a wash and brush up for the car when it comes back in.
Yeah,
no damage. So it was sitting on the gravel, not in it.
Get the old dustpan and brush out, and actually it'd be a vacuum cleaner, because the gravel just gets everywhere, particularly into the brake cooling ducts and areas you wouldn't think gravel could get into, it gets into. So 8 minutes of the session remaining, still under red flag, and probably will. I think if we're lucky, we'll get about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, okay. I've got an answer to my own question, John.
What was the question?
On my newer entry list, I do have the 777 Ferrari. It's HB Racing, Jens Lieberhauser, who we saw having a little bit of an off, Florian Scholz, and Luca Ludwig. Ludwig's been doing a great job. In one for the last couple of seasons, and so that brings us up to 53 entries. Very impressive, isn't it?
Oh, there we go. There's the Mercedes. And that
looking
wonderful.
dusty.
He's shaking all the gravel out of his car.
The others saying thank you.
All it is going to go all over the racetrack, coming up into turn 9. At least he goes the decent thing. He goes the long way around, but of course, hopefully there wasn't too much gravel. It didn't look like it got if you go in nose first, it's the splitter that does the biggest amount of gravel gathering. By going in backwards, it's the diffuser, which is a much larger gap at the rear of the car to use the low pressure at the rear of the car to get the downforce.
Right, this is the second best of the Pro-Am entries. This is one of the number 11 Kessel Racing Ferrari. Michel Bronicheski sharing with Alessandro Pierguidi. This is one of 3 cars running just with a 2-driver combination.
And Alessandro Pierguidi, make no mistake, is quick.
Yeah,
is quick in a Ferrari. Well, raced on short notice.
So clock counted down to 6 minutes 30, and I think once they're confident that, well, Raymond Voss is coming down, sweeping on the outside down to turn 14 and 15.
An interesting line he takes. So into the pit lane, and it's now a matter of when. There we go, green. So the track has got 6 minutes remaining.
So one of the Sansalot, no, it's number 17 Audi coming down the hill. Belgian Audi Club entry. Stuart Leonard, Sheldon van der Linde and Fred Vervish as the 49 Mercedes makes it back under the control tower. Will park in its garage halfway down the pit lane. So the session for them, I'm sure, is over. But for the others, what remains? Under 6 minutes, and look, it's going to get busy. 50 odd cars going out to play, going to get in each other's way.
Well, you know, I saw the 88 amongst them, and I just wonder, is there a value other than you've got a specific question you need answering, but is there a value to go out there's a group of 20 or more cars all in the pit lane going out of the one time, and you know that you're going to be in traffic more or less for the next couple of laps. You could hold back for maybe one more minute and let that initial charge get underway, and then hopefully get a slightly clearer opportunity. But
yeah, I think you're right, John. I think you're either at the very front of the queue, or you just wait that short period of time and go. We've still got about 10 cars down the pit lane, not back out onto the circuit, but they are now starting to make their moves. But the 88 Mercedes, very much in the championship reckoning, certainly in the hands of Raffaele Marciello, is in for a possible trio of titles, has at least a little bit of clear track between where he is running and Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini up in front of it.
Look at the amount of runoff. It's like a football pitch down at the entrance into turn 10. What happened to skill as a racing driver?
John, how can you start? How can you start with just under 5 minutes remaining in the session?
Is that an endangered species? I mean,
there's plenty of skill out there, John. But there are options.
It's a different skill.
Yeah,
a different skill.
So, Tracker Racing even looking to do a driver change at this late stage, or are they simply?
No, that's a good thing.
Want to do a little bit of practice. I think that's what they're looking for at this stage in the session.
To do it under, what might be nearest called race conditions. But the number one, Dries van Voor,
well, he's back on board. But
now, is he on? I'm just curious because he didn't get through. He wanted to get past the 17, and he didn't quite make it. And that might hamper what he's attempting to do, which I think is go and get one more lap just to check what track conditions are like. But now I was coming up to 10:25, 10:27, and again you can see how much he's harrying the 17.
Who's in the 17? It's Robin Friens.
No, then Robin Friens ain't going to concede anything. I can assure you of that.
Never has, never will. So the 44 Mercedes, Oliver Rowland bringing it in, looking to just do it. Driver change under pressure. That's probably Vittoria's hopping on board, I think. Christian Vittoria showing that, and Felipe Fraga, Brazilian driver, but still those Audis from Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT, side by side. They're just trying to do race simulations here, John. Let's do overtaking practice. But Robin Friens is going, you're not overtaking me. So out of turn 10, they go up the hill. Here now towards turn 12, washing out right. Now you can come through, now you can't.
I mean, Dries van Voor held the very tight line through turn 11, thinking it an opportunity, but Robin Friens just came straight back and denied Dries van Voor again. Look how close the number one Audi gets to the 17, and that complex loses out fractionally because he overran maybe a little bit too much. Hopes to pick up the modicum of slipstream, but because these are identical cars, they're straight line performance, there's nothing between them. So Robin Friens is able to hold effectively the clearest line and the clearest bit of racetrack. He's got nobody ahead of him, and that's going to give the 17 Audi an opportunity. It's currently in 15th position. That last lap was 147.1. Identical lap times effectively between the number one and number 17, but 147 against a 44.2. And this is race pace. This is not anything near that what they might want to achieve. So maybe what they're doing is running with the levels of fuel that they might take on board when they were doing a driver change, or even starting this race at 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, well, maybe John, not a bad idea at all. Maybe thinking on their feet. Certainly that's a feature of the Belgian Audi Club, the Team WRT squad that's just been so successful across the past handful of seasons, title after title in the Blancpain series.
Tell you what, great onboard shots.
They're fantastic, aren't they?
That is as good as you get as to what the sensation that Dries van Voor now slides down the outside, but of course Robin Friens will be on the inside, and there he goes. Look, you might.
John, I have double pleasure. I can see it on the screen. I can also see it out of the window from my commentary box. So I have one eye on each
between these two drivers.
But how have they managed to get the tracks themselves? Everyone else has traffic all over. Now Dries van Voor is hanging back, but he can start another flying lap. You see the clock hasn't beaten down to no time at all at the top of the screen.
No, he's not. And what he's done sensibly is he's now let Robin Friens go. He's had 2 laps of trying to drive all over him. Let him go now. One more opportunity, and he's going to have an effect, a clear track. He's got Robin Friens, 5 seconds or 6 seconds further ahead of him, so that's not going to have any bearing on what Dries van Voor, his last chance effectively, although he would have one more lap. No, he wouldn't. He'd come across. This was his last lap.
Yeah, well, he actually backed up to a 1 minute 50-second lap, whereas Freaks in a 1 minute, just under 1 minute 48, as they were slowing each other down. But this is an opportunity. But we'll see at the end of the first timing sector if there's any quick time. But we don't think they're running. Oh, gosh, the Ferrari getting its tail out there. We don't think they're running on a light fuel load. We don't think they're running on new rubber. But again, it's a question of what you can do within those parameters.
That sector time was 30.5 against what the best overall has been at 29, but it is now 29.6. So that was 9/10ths time. The best overall theoretical, that's a theoretical lap of 1:43. So that 29.6 is a theoretical time, not the best that we've seen.
Just looking at Renat Salikov there, and he was third in the Pro-Am rankings for the Endurance Cup, so he's going well. Very much the outside chance. There is his green and yellow Ferrari from Rinaldi Racing, going very strongly at the moment, but he's had a few loose moments, wheels going out over the verge. A lot of drivers being pinged for particularly exceeding track limits at turn 3. Now here is the car that could take Raffaele Marciello. He's on board at the moment. He's 14th. But it could yet take him to 3 titles. It'd be a new level of achievement in the Blancpain Series. He's won the Blancpain Sprint Cup. Did that 2 weekends ago at the Nürburgring. He could win the Endurance Cup here, and he could win the overall Blancpain GT title as well. But when we've got one more practice session, well, pre-qualifying, we'll call it later this afternoon, but tomorrow morning is when it really counts. We get to qualifying.
Slight improvement, about 145.2.
First person who's done that in a while, so he goes up to 13th place, but actually goes to show when he's in the car he can make things happen. Anybody else improving? Not in the top 40, they're not. Number 4, Mercedes, second best time, and they are very well placed. Second in the championship, just 1 point down. The Drivers' Championship for Jelmer Berman, Mauro Engel and Lukas Stoltz. They're really hunting down Raffaele Marciello, and they've had the better practice session. The number 6, sister Mercedes, flashes lights in the hands of Gabriele Piana. That comes over the line as well. So the session's been a little bit stop and start with 2 red flag periods, but all the drivers will have become accustomed to the fact there is traffic pretty much wherever they look on the circuit. But there we have the number 1 Audi, top of the charts. That time set very, very early on. I would even suggest the first flying lap by Dries van Toor. Later, the number 4 Mercedes from Black Falcon got in within quarter of a second, and likewise the 44 Stracker Racing Mercedes got into the hunt as well. But another Mercedes in 4th place overall, also from Stracker Racing, the 42 car. That was the top of the Pro-Am runners, so very much in the hunt. And as you can see, the time is incredibly close, but with 53 cars coming out to play, that is what you'd expect. The circuit is very, very technical. Got a little bit dusty on occasions with drivers going off the circuit and coming back on, so I would suggest almost one lap was never like another. But for a lot of the crews, they gained some very good track time this morning. For those that fell, they lost time that maybe, John, will be invaluable to them, because what you need is to be going out there and going around and around and around. And for some of them, they didn't get as many laps in as they'd have wanted.
No, and that stop early in the session clearly would have had an impact on some of the programs that the variety of teams in the pit lane would have been considering. And again, I think what was pretty obvious to everybody is the initial laps, whether it was before the red flag or immediately following the red flag, were going to be your best laps, because that's when the track conditions were most favourable to getting a quick time. And what we've seen then subsequently is teams going through the whole process of cycling their drivers through, maybe putting some fuel in, getting some information as to what they might expect. But it is the character of the Barcelona circuit that it is very, very changeable, and you can drive the wheels off the car and go 3 seconds a lap slower, and you wonder why.
Okay, right at the bottom of the charts, 2 cars didn't get a lap. The number 51 Ferrari, we saw Duncan Cameron putting that off. We knew that what the answer to that problem was, but the 62 Aston Martin at the very same time had just arrived at pit entry, was pushed away, and we didn't see it go out onto the circuit again. So very much on the back foot for one of the cars that should be at the sharp end. It was a winner this season. Dominic Baumann, Marvin Kirchhofer and Maxime Martin. Sorry, the sister car was the winner, but our Motorsport Aston Martin has got deliver better than that. So hopefully they can fix what's been out there. It was an interesting morning session, an hour and a half, a lot of drivers just finding the edge of the circuit a little bit beyond, but traffic was a feature throughout. But sort of when push came to shove, the number one Audi team seemed to have the answers. Cars going off in fairly strange places. That's Jack Manchester.
Still can't explain it.
That's at turn, what do we reckon, 11 going up the hill.
Yeah, I mean, he came out of turn 10, accelerated up to 11, and then just, it was almost as if the throttle stuck, or he had something that he had no control over.
And so the highlights just coming to an end there. Little moment for Phil Keane, a big moment for Raymond Vos. He got away with it, but at the moment, who comes out on top? The number one Audi.